Hello, welcome to the webinar From Setup to Success. Go live with legal service delivery in one day. My name is Shafat Syed, and I work in the legal and contract operations product team at ServiceNow. And I'm joined by my co-host, Gaurav Diwanji. Our safe harbor statement basically says that we may show some future capabilities and schedules may change over time. A couple of housekeeping items. We will have a Q&A at the end of this webinar, so please post questions in the Q&A panel using the Q&A button instead of the chat, and that allows us to keep track of your questions and make sure they get answered. This presentation will be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community. And after the event, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, which helps us improve the quality of these webinars. So we thank you for filling out the survey. In this webinar, the agenda is that first, I'll provide an overview of the legal service delivery product. My colleague Gaurav will review the setup and usage of legal service delivery. Then we'll have some additional resources, and then finally the Q&A. This webinar is a technical webinar, so we assume you have some prior knowledge of using ServiceNow at an administrative level. This is an elementary webinar and covers the basic setup, installation, and usage of legal service delivery. However, for more advanced training, we do recommend resources such as Now Learning and Now Create. Now let's cover an overview of legal service delivery. When we talk to corporate legal departments at ServiceNow customers throughout the world, we hear a very common theme, which is that manual work really slows down how legal teams function. Many times, legal teams are getting emails, phone calls, instant messaging, and trying to track all of that manually in spreadsheets, which really delivers a poor experience for employees, causes the legal team to lose a lot of time, and does not provide the visibility that legal teams really need to track and manage the work. And what legal service delivery does is it helps solve that problem by a number of methods, including streamlining the legal work, taking the unstructured or manual processes in email and spreadsheets and gets it out of that manual workflow into a structured workflow. We streamline the legal work through legal front door and legal intake. There are purpose-built workflows for common legal processes, everything from general legal requests to contracts, privacy investigations, and many other legal processes, and provides visibility in the form of dashboards and reports. All of this has the benefit of saving time and money for the whole organization, minimizing risk, and delivering a great employee experience. Legal service delivery does this by providing a self-service portal using the Employee Center or Employee Center Pro, providing a single place for employees to go to and a single workspace for the legal team to work, those common workflows for legal processes, and then finally visibility. There are a number of dashboards that are included with legal service delivery to provide that visibility, including a legal operations dashboard, as well as a legal executive dashboard that provide real-time data. And Gaurav will cover those during his section. These are the workflows that come out of the box with legal service delivery. And as an organization, you can choose to publish any number of these. As I mentioned, anything from general legal requests to contracts to compliance, and a number of different legal processes. It has integrations with common cloud storage systems, the ones that you see listed here, as well as e-signature technologies, DocuSign and Adobe Sign, and e-billing products, including Legal Tracker. Next, Gaurav will cover the setup and usage of legal service delivery, everything from the installation all the way through to reporting and analytics. So please take it away, Gaurav.
Hey, so if we go on to the next slide, so what we'll cover in the next section is elementary configuration for the legal request management module. And as Shafat talked about, currently, let's assume that if you're a new legal customer or if you just purchased legal service delivery, the question might be, how do we start seeing value? How do we move over our workflows over into ServiceNow to get started? So what we'll cover in the setup section is the setup for a general legal request, just to move over how your employee engage with the legal team over from emails and telephone calls over to the ServiceNow platform. So as a part of this activity, we'll go through certain personas, and this is the table for the personas. So first of all, there's the legal administrator. So this person is think of it as the super admin who has access to the configuration data as well as uh, transactional data as it relates to legal service delivery. We have the legal operations team, which is the team that can uh, configure the legal service delivery applications. Now, this team doesn't necessarily have access to the transactional data. So if you needed a new intake form, or if you needed a notification changed or something on those lines, or if you needed a report created, this team can go in and those activities for you without necessarily having visibility into the sensitive legal data. We have the legal manager persona. So now this persona has access to all the transactional data pertaining to their departments. We'll see that in more detail in the configuration. And we have the legal fulfiller persona who has access to uh, their transactional data tied to their department as well as any other transactional data that is assigned to them. Lastly, we have the legal user who are employees in your organization who have the legal user role so that they can submit legal requests. Out of the box, not all ServiceNow employees can submit legal requests, only users with the legal roles can do so. So you have some level of control over which employees work often with legal, and then only you can only give those employees access to the legal request page. And these personas are administered through groups and roles in ServiceNow. So those of you who are already familiar with ServiceNow might be aware of the concept of groups. So you assign users to groups, and we have a dedicated group for most of these personas as shown in the table. Something that I'd like to call out about the legal administrator role is out of the box, when you install the ServiceNow legal request management application, the legal administrator role is within the IT admin role. And there's a step that you can carry out to separate out the IT admin and legal admin. So that way you can have a dedicated person as the legal admin who can look, who has access to all the transactional data and all the configuration data. And IT admin won't necessarily have access to that moving forward once you carry this activity out. And for that, we have a detailed blog. So Shafat will copy the blog URL in the Teams chat, but Zoom chat, but just wanted to call that out as well. And now we'll move over to the configuration side of things. Perfect. Um, Shafat, is the screen share working? Can I? Okay. Assuming that it is working, I'll go on. And feel free to let me know in the chat if the screen share is not visible. Anyway, so now if you're seeing my ServiceNow screen,
We can see it. It's good.
perfect. Thank you. We'll just extend this session. And if you see my ServiceNow screen, we will type in legal. That's where the legal administrator thing shows up. And this is legal administration module is where we'll do most of our configuration work. But before that, let's just look at the legal general request page that we'll be working on. So as you see over here, the legal services tab, this is the legal general request page. So out of the box, you get this legal general request page, and this is the entry point for employees to submit their request to the legal team. We'll work on configuring the flow for this request and how requests are routed, but just wanted to start off with what we'll be working towards. Now, let's say if we wanted to change the verbiage on this page or wanted to add additional fields, we can do so by if we go to legal administration, legal catalog, and record producers. And we've clicked on it and waiting for it to open up. And you can click on edit in catalog builder. So this is a no code tool that we have in the ServiceNow platform where you can change the verbiage if you want to change the picture, if you want to go back and change some of the questions, how they are worded, you can change that as well, just to make it more on brand for what your organization needs. So I'll go back over here. I won't make any edits right now. Just cancel checkout since we aren't making any changes over there. And now we'll go back to the configuration side of it. We looked at those personas and the users tied to those personas. So legal administration and groups is how we assign users to these personas. So out of the box, the system admin, the user that I'm logged in as, already has the legal admin role. So I'll skip that step. I'll go on to legal operations and I'll go to group members. So these are the users who have access to configure legal data. So I'll legal the legal service delivery application without necessarily seeing the data. So I gave that to able tutor. I'll go to legal. Okay, there we go. Legal practice area leads. This is the manager persona who has access to the transaction data for their departments. So this one I will assign to Eileen. Legal department is your lawyers and paralegals or any other employees who work on fulfilling these legal requests. So for that, in this case, I will assign it to, let's say, who is that person in our table? Amelia. And this is an activity that you'll have to do once you've identified your legal team and your stakeholders. This is an activity that you'll do to assign people to those groups. And finally, we'll go to the user record for Joe employee. and assign the legal user role to that employee. I've done that already, but I'll still show it here just in case. So Joe employee has the legal user role. Because of this legal user role, the employee will see this tab right here. Now, as the next step, we will assign a legal practice area lead. So I'll go to legal administration once again. I'll go to practice area. General practice area is the one that we'll be working in. And as you see over here, Eileen is already assigned, but if I wanted to, I could remove Eileen. And as you see, Eileen is the only one in this list because she's the only one in that legal practice area assignment group. So once all the users in that legal practice area assignment groups will show up in this list, and then you can determine who is the practice area lead for which given practice area, and then go from there. A practice area, think of it as a legal department. So out of the box, we have some of these practice areas installed with the legal request applications. We have general, we have privacy. So you can create practice area for each department. You can assign leads for each department. Uh, and then you can create intake forms such as this one for each practice area, or each practice area can have multiple forms as well. Now, since we are working on the general legal intake, so it's a part of this one. We have the practice area lead assigned. So this is the person that we'll see is the one who has access to route the legal request to employees. We'll come to assignment rules. Assignment rules is what determines which group does the request assigned to. So in this case, we are assigning it to the legal department. But let's say if you had multiple intake forms, if you had an intake form for privacy concerns, and if you had an intake form for general legal, if you had an intake form for content review, and the teams servicing those requests were different teams, in that case, you can define a group for each of those fulfiller subsections, and then you could assign you could write rules to determine where which request is assigned to. So in this case, it is assigned to the legal department. Now we'll quickly look at notifications. So if you wanted to send notifications, or rather send emails on various events. So in this case, let's say this is turned off, we'll turn this on. I will make it active. So in this case, if you wanted to send an email to the employee, when the request is created, you can configure that email, which are there out of the box, but you can make changes to the verbiage here. You could add your branding, and then we can go from there. So this is the email configuration, which is usually straightforward as well. And now we'll go on to create a knowledge article real quickly. So for that, we'll type in legal request, knowledge bases, and create new article. So what we are doing here is, let's see, is we are creating an article in the legal operations knowledge base over here. You can create a category if needed. In this case, I'll skip the category. And once again, like you can copy and paste. So I have this Word document that I have open. I'll just copy and paste the content from this over here. I'll keep formatting. And the reason we create these articles is for request deflection. So if you see a pattern or a theme for requests coming in, then for asking the same questions, then that might be a candidate for a knowledge article. And you can create these deflection articles fairly straightforward. You don't really need your admin or your IT admin for that. Uh, Let me just find that once again. There we go. Don't really need your IT admin for that. The legal team themselves can create knowledge articles. I'll submit it in this case. All this one is in the workflow. I'll open this knowledge articles, and as an admin, I'll just publish this knowledge articles as well. So now that we have completed the basic setup, we'll see a quick demo of what it looks like with all the configurations that we've made. And at each step in the demo, I'll walk you through the configuration item that we just touched upon to see how it's affecting the flow. So in this case, now I'll impersonate Joe employee. And just a quick note that the impersonate capability is not available for all users, and we have security in place where if an application is secured as a scoped application, it won't be impersonated and everything. But since I have the legal admin role right now, I'm able to impersonate and look at the legal data and kick off the legal workflows. But this is a protected mechanism. Just wanted to make that little note. I'll impersonate Joe, employee, and I will go to the service portal as Joe. So I see Joe over here. Since I have the legal user role, I see this taxonomy. If I did not have this role, I won't see the legal services tab right here. I'll click on here, click on the general legal request since this is the only intake form available. I will type in here, what is my stock trading policy? So as you see over here, we see the deflection knowledge articles pop up. It has determined that this knowledge article is the most relevant for this question, and it suggests this article. So the reason that why we created that knowledge article as an exercise is just to point this out. And I'll just copy this once again. This is my stock trading policy. And then we could either choose to save this as draft or submit. So in this case, as Joe, I will submit my legal request. What I'll do next is I will come back here and I will impersonate Amelia, who is the legal fulfiller. She's not the legal manager. She's the legal fulfiller. And we have access to the legal counsel center over here. And if I click on the list view over here, you can look at the unassigned legal request. So as you see, this new unassigned legal request just popped up in this list view. And if I am an employee, most of these things are read only to me. I can only start working on this if this is assigned to me. So I could either, depending on what your workflow is, if I am proactive, I could assign it to myself and start working on it, or I could wait for my manager to delegate it to me. Not my manager, essentially, the manager who is the manager of the legal department who is working on these. So to see that view, I will impersonate Eileen. And I will go to Legal Counsel Center as the practice lead persona. If you remember, we've set up Eileen as the practice lead. Since she's the practice lead, as you see over here, Eileen has more access now. As you see over here, the assignment group has been automatically populated as the legal department. And the legal department is what we've set in the assignment rule. So because of that, it's populated as such. If you had certain logic in place that if this is one kind of request or if it contains certain keywords, then pointed to that assignment group, you can create that logic there. If I click on the assign to over here, it will show me a list of users from that particular assignment group. In this case, Amelia was the only person in that assignment group that we assigned to. So Amelia is the only person. I click save. And now it has been assigned to Amelia. I'll go back once again as Amelia. And go to my Legal Counsel Center workspace. And as I see over here, it shows as assigned. And if I wanted to go through the list view, legal request assigned to me, Amelia can see this request and start working on this request. Now I want to point out we have this counsel assist over here, in which case Amelia can look at the articles relevant and attach it to the user. So this pops up in Joe's feed, and Amelia can put in work notes, comments, and what's more important perhaps is she could look at resolved cases which were similar. So I've just created a similar resolved case just for this example. In this case, if Amelia can look at, hey, was there a case, was there a request that was similar? Was there a similar request in the past? And if there was, then I could just look at it and then follow the similar steps. I could also look at, are there any similar open requests? And if there are, advanced capability here, but you could bunch those requests if they are pointing to the same thing. You can bunch those requests as a legal matter and then work on that legal matter and then update those cases, legal request all at once that matter is resolved. But just wanted to point you to this legal counsel center functionality, which out of the box, this does not require any configuration. You can also create checklists. Another thing that you could do is based on general legal request is a very generic kind of a request, but if you had a request that is more specific, that has certain steps to be followed, you can create templates for these checklists to be auto-populated based on the type of request, and then we could go from there. But in this case, this was essentially it. And in this case, I will start work as Amelia. I will enter in some comments that Joe will see. Joe can respond back, and I will close this case. Perfect. Now that I've closed this case, I also have an option as a legal fulfiller or a legal manager to look at dashboards around the legal operations. So as you could see over here, you can look at the number of requests, you can look at the trends. Over here, how the requests have been, there's just one request, but as we get more data, you can have trends and everything. And most of this is out of the box. And it usually helps the legal managers, especially look at the work that is coming in, look at the requests that are assigned by fulfillers, and then determine if they want to move some requests around, if they need to make a case for additional headcount and things like that. So this dashboard, operational dashboard, is fairly useful just to see what does the request load look like. So this was the legal request side of things. Uh, I will end it over here and I'll do a quick demo of this capability where we've often seen that moving over from emails, there might be some inertia uh, in both the employees as well as the legal teams that, hey, we are used to working in email, or hey, we're you still getting requests over emails, and then it's adding an extra step for me for to create that request in ServiceNow and everything. So for that, we also have the Outlook add-in for LSD. So what it does is it allows initiation of legal request or legal matters from the Outlook client itself. So in this case, this is a reprise demo. This is in actual Outlook, but this still gives a good idea of what the experience is like. So let's say if we have an email from Nicole to Mike, Mike is this person over here, and Mike wants to create a new legal request based on Nicole's email. So they can have the Outlook add-in over here, and then they could click on new. You could select the type of request that you'd want to create and click on create. So what this does over here is it auto-populates some of the fields. The requested for is populated from based on who sent that email. The summary is populated from the email subject. The description is populated based on the email body. And then you could hit submit. Once I've hit submit, I can close it. And as you see over here, the legal request has been created. Now they could look at other legal requests or open existing requests, but essentially this takes away the step for that swivel chair where someone might need to manually go into ServiceNow and copy the data and create that request. So it solves for that. And a quick overview on the setup for us as well. So you need to install the plugin for this. I'll just show you the plugins page. Application. Okay, this is still Joe employee. Let's refresh. Application manager. If I go to application manager and if I type in legal, the only three applications that we installed for this for to get this to work was legal request management, legal counsel center, and the Microsoft Outlook add-in. So I would call these two out as the must-haves. The Outlook add-in is a nice to have if you wanted that additional capability around the Outlook add-in. And once you install the plugin, the steps for setting it up is you go to ServiceNow add-ins and then you select manifest. Then you select the manifest for the right application. In this case, it's ServiceNow for legal. I'll click here. I'll download the manifest over here. And then this is manifest is essentially at its core an XML file that you can then send it over to your Exchange admin and then they can install it uh, on the server side so that it shows up as an add-in on the user's Outlook clients. And once that is done, there's an additional step. If you are on SSO, you could configure SSO as well. And once that is done, as a legal team member who's configuring things, all you'd need to do is define which intake forms show up on the Outlook add-in. So for that, you go to practice areas, decide which practice areas you want to make visible. You go to the intake form, and in options in the intake form, you could go in and select enable for Outlook add-in and update. So once that is done, then it starts showing up as an option in the user's Outlook add-in. So you can also control which requests show up and in the Outlook add-in, so that to reduce the clutter, if there's only one particular type of request that you're getting over email, and that is the one that you'd want to move over to ServiceNow. So this was a really quick overview of the configuration steps that are needed to quickly get set up with the legal request management applications with and move over from emails and telephones into this structured workflow where you can manage the requests that are coming in, have visibility into those requests through those dashboards, and determine how they're assigned out and look at emails and all as well. Under terms of emails, the last thing that we'll look at is the emails that get sent out. We'll go to system logs and emails. And as you see over here, this was the request that we assigned. So this was the email to Amelia that, hey, this request was assigned to you. You can change the verbiage, you can change the template, you can determine whether or not that email is sent out in the first place. And then we can go from there. So this was the new request received email. This is the email that goes out to the employee. You can change the wording on here as well through the notifications section that we reviewed earlier. So this was the configuration and rule of thumb. Like if there's one thing that if you're trying to set up the application as an administrator for your business counterparts, the only thing that I would remember is just go to this legal administration module, go through these steps, and then this is usually good enough. So this was the foundational configuration. If you wanted to look at other things that are available in the legal service delivery product, we have this concept of practice area applications. So right now, let me just look at plugins. Right now, I don't think we have a lot of practice area applications enabled, but I'll just go to this section. I'll type in legal. So as you see over here, we have these dedicated practice area applications. We have simple privacy, we have legal investigations, conflict of interest. So based on the use case or the workflow that you want to turn on, you can explore the practice area applications and then turn the plugins on based off of that. We also, as of some of the newer releases, we also have an external legal service center where external users can submit legal requests. So that was a quick overview of the application and a quick overview of the configuration. I'll hand it off to you, Shafat, for closing notes. And if there's any questions, we can address those as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Now what we'll do is we will talk about some resources that are available to learn more. So the first is Now Learning. Now Learning provides a number of different training courses. I definitely recommend you try these. I've posted the link in the chat window here. So there is a Legal Service Delivery Essentials course. It's a 7 hour and 20-minute course, covers quite a bit in more depth the material that Gaurav covered. We also have Now Create, and Now Create, you can leverage the learning that you got in Now Learning, and Now Create lays out a project plan essentially that allows you to go from everything from scoping a project to how do you actually execute the implementation, go live, test it, and make it available to employees. So the links are available in the chat window, so please do check those out. We also have additional resources in terms of ServiceNow Impact, training and certification courses, and of course, our expert services.